Hello, good evening. Hope you are preparing for the Christmas. A lot of activity around here. So, but I always like to use these festive occasions to revive uh, what the wisdom represented by that festival, right? Um, I do that with all the Indian festivals because there are many, right? And there are so many opportunities to discuss the significance of it. This topic, I was talking about the personality of human beings, and the ancient wisdom from that. Okay. Um, I've been talking about 2 or 3 days now, this particular topic. It's basically what kind of person you have evolved into, and how once you have evolved into certain traits, and you may think, oh, I can't change this. I have been like this. This is me. I am this. That kind of talk we hear all the time, right? People say, this is how I made. This is what it is. I'm going to be like this, A lot of my patients, they use that for telling me about drinking and smoking, you know. And then they say, this kind of bond with me. I have been doing this. I can get away from it. But then they are suffering from certain side effects of the drinking or smoking. And when I see them, it's usually a very advanced stage sometimes. Sometimes it can be modified, Those are habits and all that. But then inner inklings, inner tendencies, and your reactions, all those things come from that developing this kind of ego based personality. Wisdom tells us that ego is not you, it is your shadow. Okay, it's really not real you, but it is a shadow of real you. So, the simple thing about ego is if you are aware that you are having this ego, it automatically doesn't have the same power as somebody who is not aware of that he is egoic and is bringing in the ego in everything, right? So a lot of people go through that in the modern life, and transcendence of the ego. Actually, as a matter of fact, is the goal of the religions. A lot of people don't realize that. Spirituality really asks you to be in your real self, and then you transcend ego. What we were talking about in the last 3 days of how can you be unselfish, how can you be mindful, how can you be equanimous in pain and pleasure, and how can you realize that we are all interconnected in one energy. These traits that you can learn from the ancient wisdom can really make you a person of hi Alka, how are you? So it makes you come uh, to the table of the society, of relationship or job, whatever you're doing, bringing in those kind of tendencies of trying to be unselfish is something very, very, very difficult in the modern times because everybody wants to do everything for something, right? Then you say, oh, why? There was a very interesting discussion happened between two gentlemen, and this elder gentleman had been in ancient wisdom in so many ways for a long time. So this young guy who has come with some questions, he was asking him when he said this unselfish work, and he said, "How can I be um, disinterested?" That's what the term he used, the elderly man. Disinterested work, right? Um, so he went and asked, "How can I do work if I'm not interested in this?" Then he said, disinterested, my boy, not uninterested. That means you are not putting your selfish desires to do work that is disinterested, But not uninterested means that you should have the same passion to do the thing properly. There was a big discussion on this with the Gandhi also. At one time, he says, uh, renounce and then enjoy. Renounce the benefits, whatever they come, and then you can work to the excellence that you would like to have and you would like to show. So that's a very, very important aspect in human life, because you don't want to spend 40, 50 years just to doing something to get some, you know, uh, simple things, and they may not be valuable, and then you are not engaged in your uh, inner quest or truth seeking and all that, right? So that is a wisdom perspective of the people who are seeking wisdom, who are seeking who they are, who are seeking what is the meaning, all those bigger questions. That if you really want to know that, then this is a must, right? So that's why they always talk about action yoga, where you work without any selfishness, and then to focus, either you go into devotional yoga or into the meditation yoga, where you focus your mind. So with that unselfish pure heart and with the focused mind, you go and you find out who you are. So the very tall order uh, expectations and all that. But what it is remember the term disinterested. That means it's not just for me, but the bigger sake. Like you are working for an institution, it's not your position, your advancement, all that matter. But what matters is what that institution represents, and what the kind of things you want to contribute, how many people are going to be. Like in a hospital I work, and I can reach like so many kilometers, right? So many miles in America. Catchment area, we call it. So many patients come from, for example, our hospital kind of catchment area is 72,000 people, right? That means doesn't mean we have 110 hospitals in this small town, but then people can come from different or distances. So ultimately, many people look to this hospital to come when they are really sick and all that, right? Otherwise, they may go to local, but they may not have all the services, all the specialists, so they come here too. So we call that catchment area. Okay. Anyway, once they come here, they get this. So when I'm keeping that number in my mind, and when I know these services reach all the way there, and we have a standard, we have a quality that we want to maintain with each service, and then we have to maintain that quality, or look for that quality, right? That is really paying attention to the larger picture of the hospital rather than personal, whatever comfort, whatever we are looking for, right? So that plays a big hand of being example to other people when you display that kind of uh, disinterested but not uninterested work. Very important term, I think. So that's one thing we talked about, because modern times have made people to be consuming more, contributing less, right? And then many people fall into the trap, because as though the whole life is just to live it up, and then that's it, die. That's very tragic, because knowing these deeper principles of ancient wisdom really frees you from the suffering. That's a, and also not to only free you suffering, but also land you up in that joyous state that anybody can step into and live the life like that, not being really bothered by small problems, or things that happen in the life, right? So that's what the first part was: unselfish attitude and work, right? And the second thing was very important is, unless you are focused, unless you are concentrated, unless you are really attentive to what is happening here and now, you can never really be in the life. You may be in your head thinking in the past or thinking in the future, but not really actively engaged in life, right? So you want to really be here and now, and explore things in the current life, right? So that's why many things get done far better, and then your quality will be going up, and so you don't get bored or you don't get really bothered by the results and all that, right? That's the mindfulness or attention in the present. The third thing we talked about was uh, you don't want to be like a dictated by external circumstances to go into deep ecstasy when something small victory happened, or deep sorrow when something went out of whack, right? So a lot of people do that, and then social media now exploiting that in the shape of giving some dopamine uh, for people who see somebody liking their comment or whatever, and that has become a real addiction with a lot of people. I see many people having this problem. They are addicted to internet, especially the teenagers and then young adults, right? So I do uh, conduct a course on detoxification with social media. A lot of problems are happening because of that. I talked about this several times before. Anyway, that's being equanimous when something happens outwardly happens when you discover your real self, and then you can watch the mind reacting that way. Okay, that is when it's really a meditative state. But then once you are involved in that state, then you experience the joy without any reason outward. That's the thing. Joy wraps up. That's what it is. But then you have to focus the mind and purify the mind by all those other action yoga and king of yoga, Raja Yoga, which is for the focus. If you do that, then you'll go there. So today we're going to talk about something, the fourth one, which is, uh, once you really realize that there is only one and everybody is in that. I did a room called Self is All and All in Self. The self means doesn't mean our little ego, small mind like that. No, it is the bigger self that inclusive of everything, and we are in it, and it is in us. That kind of thing. So this is a major importance in ancient wisdom, because they said, don't worry about external life. Eat simply, clothe simply as few as possible, and don't even have a family if you cannot be without it. If you have family, at the later age, leave it and go into the forest and in the hills, and then do meditation and realize who you are, right? Because that is the inner self, actually reflection of the bigger self outward. Once you understand both are the same, and then you are connected to everything else, then you are not alone. You are with everything, and everything is in you. That kind of thing is very important. So realizing that there is only one energy according to the physics, and realizing everything is interconnected. It's not just a theory. It's not something of somebody proclaimed that. But actual fact is that, physics also. If you take it, if you talk to any modern physician or physics person, he will tell you that. Bohm wrote about it. David Bohm is a good one. I came across with him because he was having some talks with J. Krishnamurti. And a lot of stuff I could understand through Bohm, because Krishnamurti seemed very difficult to understand. But then later it became very clear that Krishnamurti is the one who has answers, and Bohm is really listening to him. But he's reframing them, rephrasing them, so that people like us can understand what's going on. Okay? So he was very much into this, one family of life. And in Sanskrit they call Jagataika Kutumbakam. So that means all world is one family. That's important for us because we kind of isolate ourselves through countries, through races, through sexes, or to Uh, in India, if you go, there's caste system, there's a faith system, lots of things, right? People are separating themselves and then killing themselves too. But if you really look at what the ecological climate needs also, we need to recognize that we're only one human tribe, and all this damage that we do to ourselves, to the weather, and everything is apparent. So that's why this principle is very important into the personality of children. Uh, Racism and cruelty or unhealthy competition, all those things may look different to somebody who is educated right from the beginning, that we are all really one human tribe. You know, that's why I don't claim that I'm so and so, because, as a matter of fact, I am in India born, and here in USA. I've been living USA more years than India, but I do understand Indian philosophy. I love it. I do understand American freedom. I love it. But then problems were both ways. So we also know about that too. But basically, understanding all living beings are in one family helps us to behave like that. So for me, my patients come from different countries, right? Not all of them, but they're blacks, there are whites, there are Chinese, there are Indians, there are so many different people. In New York, we used to see a lot of Russians. They used to come to that particular hospital because they were brought in there from official immigration something. So we saw a lot of, there are so many Russians who we needed an interpreter to see each patient. Okay, and also Polish and also Jewish. So many people came to the hospital there. So we have seen a lot. But for me, I don't see that superficial differences at all. I see that we are all part of the human tribe, and that helped me a lot to really behave with the patients, to express my friendship and my concern for them. And whoever they are human beings. They have the same kind of body and mind and all that. So in terms of how they feel pain, how they express their pain, how they are depressed and anger, all those things are the same. But outwardly, they may be different skins, different colors and all that. So this is not, I've been saying this for so many years, but I have not seen anybody come across and say, "Oh, I do feel the same way. I don't have any nationality. I don't have any particular affiliation to a color or anything like that." I think that would be very, very healthy, even if it is taken in a very small percentage. A lot of these racially uh, induced fights or killings and all this may go down a little bit, and the wars also will go down. So that trait that we all are in one energy and we are interconnected is very much included in ancient wisdom. Namaste, for example, I talked about this so many times. Namaste is really recognize that oneness within you and me, and then really establishing that. So for me, each patient comes, I have a chance to say Namaste inside or outside. And then this is Corona. A lot of people who came, they were using the Namaste because shaking hands has become really risky, right? So that was there. Uh, so from the point of view of ancient wisdom, if you can really understand this will be very good for you. Um, so in terms of uh, inner qualities of any person, we want to look at that person like, is he gentle, or she is kind, or they are benevolent, and they're kind of wishing the benefaction of everybody else. Uh, is he humorous? Is he really trustworthy? All these things that we consider part of the personality is really what the ancient wisdom breeds eventually. Okay, they kind of highlight what's called righteousness, dharma. Dharma means rightness, not faith. In that they say, are you acting in union with the deeper truths um, of the world. Not making little rules as you go by, or making them bend towards your selfish nations. Either it could be a country or it could be one university. It doesn't matter. An individual will be like that. A country will be like that too. So what they talked about was uh, they took kings and then took those kings as moral leaders and also supporters of this kind of righteousness, right? So there was this story I read today morning actually. See, if you go to any temple, you see a pillar in the front of the uh, temple, right? That is called Dvajastamba. It's like a very tall, straight. And in yoga, they describe that for the spine that we have to be erect and straight. Like that, they have to say that, but then that represents energy going up and all that. But then, other meaning is there was a king, actually. He was such a free giver of everything. It's called him Dana. Dana means giving, right? He gives away everything. And then one time somebody comes and then they ask half the body peeled off the skin and given to somebody, something like that. Very weird situation. And then this man is kind of giving it, but then he says, I only regret I don't have anybody asking for the next half. That's why the Lord appears and gives him this boon that wherever you are, you will always be in the temple, and everybody will come and prostrate to you first before they go to the Lord. And that really happens. They come and they don't know the story probably, but then they just do that namaste to that stamba and then go. So that kind of elevating the human nobleness or kindness or compassion, all these qualities are sattvic. They are really encouraged. There is a food that you can eat, there is a way you can behave, there is a way you can speak. All that represents how much this sattvic nature you have within. Okay, and people actually in yoga they kind of prescribe this diet and this speech and everything, but the elevation of that kind of nature, you know. Um, so that's why they frown upon this entertainment, which kind of rakes up the other way. They would rather have enlightenment than entertainment, you know. So that's another quality that you want to understand. So, how you are in spirit, kind, compassionate, loving, and gentle, and all those qualities are not considered as a weakness or somebody is in fear or something like that. No, actually, when you are like that in front of the danger, that's a very considered a very high strength. Like many of the sages, they had incidents where they had encountered wild animals, snakes or lions or tigers like that. But in their presence, somehow these animals lost their wildness because the other person has no trace of fear, and that's why they lose their wildness and they calm down. They don't strike at him, and they can actually stay with him. This was a very common occurrence with many people. I know one guy who is a very good meditator, and he goes into the forest and sits and meditates because he wants to do that. And when he opens up, there are several snakes around, not on him, but in front of him. Staying there. Somehow they are attracted to the stillness of the sages, and they come up, right? So how you are in the spirit, what kind of qualities you grow. It's not like about competition. It's not about dominating other people or being cruel or anything like that. Opposite. What are you as a human being? How high can you go as a human being? That is the essence of it. So if you look at the personality, like in that light, it's very valuable, ancient wisdom, right? So I wanted to bring that to everybody's notice so that you can understand how significant that is for a lot of people. I can go much deeper on this aspect, but that's not relevant. The relevant part here is modern times kind of throw a lot of challenges. Modern times create situations where you want to be on the side of not so human. So how to reconsider that to really be nonviolent, truthful, kind, and compassionate, all these qualities that we talked about is very important, right? Uh, that way, people will be able to live a happier, inner, joyful life because their outward behavior do not breed any of these negative things in life, right? So, hi Jacob, how are you?
Hello, Dr. Rao. I am human.
Uh, yeah. So, we are discussing some of these wise principles that we could take and we could really elevate ourselves. So, peace is not out there really, peace is within us. What I found was by understanding and trying to live those principles, what the ancient wise people really advocated, is very nurturing and uh, do not allow the situation to flare up into something of a negative nature. So, all in all, you are not only free from this daily simple conflicts and all that, but also you can be very nurturing and helpful to other people and create relationships in such a way that's pretty good for everybody. It's an all-consuming energy, like it's a kind of uh, a wave of love around everybody, that kind of thing. So that's why I was bringing this perspective of understanding ancient wisdom, and then let it seep into ourselves, and thereby our personality is elevated, and also we give a lot of strength and peace and happiness within. That's the idea why I brought this topic. Hmm. Any questions, anybody? Jacob?
Hmm. I'm thinking about stoicism.
Yeah, yeah.
And decision making versus emotive.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been learning logic recently, and the difference between cognitive, like informational content, and emotive, kind of emotional content. And I'm thinking for stoicism, is it that they negate the feeling of it, or that they are in true acceptance of the feeling and then are able to then decide upon something? For example, I decided to pick up a bunch of dog poop earlier, and I stepped in some like puddles and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't my favorite task in the world," but at the same time, I chose to do it, and no matter how I feel, I decided that I'm going to finish the task.
Yeah.
But then again, I can imagine that I can possibly create a feeling that would make me stop, just like any task. But then it kind of reminded me of the whole process. It's like I made a decision, and it helped me kind of subside any emotive content to continue on with the physical expression of the cognitive choice. Versus sometimes when kind of we're just placed in an environment and it's not necessarily our choice. It's like we don't have the cognitive determination to continue on with kind of like physical discomfort.
Yeah. See, Stoicism is from the Roman. And there is a difference between the ancient wisdom compared to the recent stoicism. Stoicism, they want to use your mind, not only cognitive but emotive, both are considered mind, right? And they want to see what it is and be here and do everything. That's why you are stoic, in terms of not reacting in the way that otherwise you would. Okay? Like, for example, you have this understanding this is dirty, this should not be taken off, and all that they were there before. And when you had this accident of putting the foot in the poop, you immediately felt this is what it is, and automatically the reaction comes up. But in stoicism, what happens is you kind of look both reaction of cognition and also emotional thing as different from what is happening. And then once you're stationed in what is happening, you are okay. Whereas in ancient wisdom, they talk about what you get repulsed, what you get attracted, both are the coins of the sides of the same coin, two sides of the same coin. And that way they become equanimous, either of it. Okay, so it's a little bit higher. And then also they separate your body, mind as things from you, which is your real spirit, right? Whereas Stoicism looks at the mind with the reactions and attractions and reactions and all that at the mind level. The ancients went beyond that mind level to the spirit. That's why the ego is taken off. Psychosomatic illness doesn't get worse when you are established in the self. That is, the self-realized people are very healthy because they don't have this movement of thought at all. Whereas Stoicism stops a little bit, earlier than that. But still, I think it's a very good system to follow and then to discover yourself what is beyond that. So it has its role, Stoicism too. Stoic, you be stoic. That's it. If you understand that, that's good enough.
Interesting stuff. And also, Merry Christmas Eve, Dr. Al. Whether or not you partake in Christian holidays, Merry Christmas Eve to you.
Oh, we do, because I don't have any particular affiliation to anything. I read everything, I study and all that, right? And I told you probably before, because I saw this movie that was made in my language in India, very well made. The title is Karunamaya. That means Karuna means kindness. The person who is the personification of the kindness, that is Christ, right? They were described, and they made a beautiful movie. And the movie, in that movie, he says a statement like, "To love as a human being is my religion." That's the dialogue they put it in the from Christ. It stuck with me, that particular statement. I still remember that movie because of that. And also, our favorite movie is It's a Wonderful Life, with Jimmy Stewart, holiday times. And I think that is a very nice movie because they encourage giving other people, encourage about thinking other people, encourage being a friend to everybody. That is what the Jimmy Stewart role represents. So I think a real Christian spirit, not this commercial activity. I really love it.
Yes. It's like there's non-commercialized ways of expressing ritual, right? It doesn't have to be the economic commonality necessarily.
Yeah, I think giving from the heart, if you have that, I think that's richer than anything else. But it's not just only this one. Even other places also, the commercialization has crept in. So all over people are commercialized, and the consumerism, commercialism, and superficiality. And by the way, I was going to talk about. I will do one of these days. Why do we need all this entertainment? Even commercially buying is also. Why don't we focus more on the enlightenment? That's a very relevant modern topic. Many people are sucked into the entertainment, and then they don't have the capacity to go in and then find out that enlightenment, which I value a lot. I think that's very important in human life, and we should be focusing more on that. Who are those people who are enlightened? Why? How did they do? What did they do? Even just there was a famous saying: the way an enlightened person lives becomes lessons for people who are not enlightened to follow. You know that way, if you examine that phenomena, examine the benefits of that, how they live, and all that is really fascinating to do. I will do it one of these days. So.
It reminds me of the concept of urge surfing that Philip sent me recently. He's like, okay, you experience a phenomenological stimulus, identify the boundary, the exact boundary of the emotion and the thought.
Yeah.
And I took an airplane today. My friend Anoop, who's a neuroscientist, he kept talking to me about verbs and inhibitory control. And I'm like, okay, inside the airplane, we are every single human is every single passenger is operating with the base verb of waiting. We are waiting. We have to wait for a certain period. But mathematically, even in between the numbers 0 and 1, we have infinite digits. So if I accept the fact that I'm waiting, I can then if I accept the base phenomenon, I can then infinitize the associated phenomenon. So if I accept I'm waiting, then I can think of anything. I can think, I can enjoy, I can talk to people, I can play a game, blah blah blah. I can do anything.
Or do nothing. You're fine with waiting. So you do nothing also is okay with you. Yeah.
Exactly. I can sleep. I can do nothing.
Yeah.
And there was a lady who went and did yoga at the back of the plane.
Yeah. I do that too.
You can do anything.
I do that yoga too, Jacob. When I travel to India, I will be doing the yoga in the back of the plane because that is the one which gives me, because the clock change, the times change, and the food also these people bring all over. And then so I found those stretches and deep breathing helped me a lot to not say, by the way, I don't have any jet lag because of that, I think. Not only I follow the times and all that, but when I was not doing that, I saw I was having jet lag when I go to India. But then after I started to see this yoga and all that, when I continued a minimum of it in the plane, it was very, very comfortable, so.
Dr. Are you in the U.S.?
Yeah, Iowa.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in Texas right now. I just got here today.
Yeah.
Iowa. Well, I hope I get to meet you someday.
Sure.
That'll be cool.
Sure, that will be nice. I come to Texas a couple of times. I did to Houston and Dallas for the conferences. I came. I stayed there one time 3 days, one time 7 days for the conferences.
I'm beside Sacramento, so we're a little more south. Although I'm going to Miami to the Future of Education and Technology Conference on January 20th.
January 20th, okay.
Yeah, we're releasing some technology.
See, we like Texas also, Florida also, because they're sunny. They remind me, the tropical weather. So here in Iowa, it's all cold, right? So we look forward to go to vacations Florida once a year at least. So this is 1 week or so. And that way we kind of stay in the beach and help ourselves, revive ourselves a little bit. We enjoy the sun very much, So.
Yeah, I saw sun here today for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't have sun in Toronto. We just have clouds.
Well, Alka, you have any questions before I leave?
All right, great to see you, Dr. Al.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Alka. I'll see you tomorrow.